The sun dipped low over the dusty plains, painting everything in shades of gold and sorrow. Luke, the young rancher, leaned against the worn fence, staring at the empty horizon. His father's voice echoed in his mind, a bitter reminder of the man he had lost just a month ago. The ranch felt too big, too silent, and the loneliness gnawed at him. He hadn't realized how hollow life could feel until someone was gone, leaving only memories and the weight of responsibilities no one else could carry. A sudden clatter from the barn made him tense. Luke's horse, Midnight, neighed, pawing the ground nervously. Luke walked closer and froze. There she stood, taller than anyone he had ever seen, broad shoulders, long legs, and a confident stance that seemed impossible for a human. Her gaze held a mix of mischief and curiosity, and before he could speak, she smiled, a warm, disarming curve that made his chest tighten. "You've never been kissed?" she asked, stepping closer, her voice soft but teasing. Luke blinked, unsure if he had heard right. His cheeks burned. He had spent years focused on running the ranch, raising cattle, and surviving on his own. Affection, love, intimacy, it had always been a foreign language. And now, this giant cowgirl, stranger and yet oddly comforting, was standing right in front of him, challenging every wall he had built around his heart. He shook his head, trying to find words, but none came. The air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. She took another step, and suddenly the gap between them vanished. Luke could feel her presence, not just her size but the calm assurance she carried. He wanted to retreat, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. His life had been predictable, lonely, and now it was on the brink of a storm he hadn't anticipated. "I may," she said, holding out her hand. Luke hesitated for only a moment before shaking it, realizing that it was the first human contact that didn't feel like a duty or obligation in weeks. Her grip was firm but gentle, and a strange sense of security washed over him. May's eyes sparkled with amusement, and for the first time since his father's death, Luke felt something resembling hope. The evening air grew cooler, carrying the scent of hay and wildflowers from the nearby fields. May leaned against the fence beside him, her height towering over his. They watched the sun sink lower, the sky burning in shades of red and orange. For a fleeting moment, the grief that had weighed so heavily on Luke seemed to lift, replaced by a delicate, thrilling possibility. Could someone like her truly belong in his quiet, broken world? Suddenly, a scream echoed from the woods behind the ranch. Both Luke and May spun toward it, hearts racing. A small figure emerged, stumbling through the brush, a little girl, terrified and alone, clutching a tattered doll. Luke's instinct took over, and he rushed forward, May following swiftly. The girl's tears streaked her dirt-smudged face, and Luke knew he couldn't turn her away. His world of isolation was ending, whether he liked it or not. "I'm okay," the girl sobbed. "I was chased by the coyotes." Luke knelt, lifting her gently into his arms. May's eyes softened, and she offered a reassuring hand. Luke felt a flicker of warmth in the chaos, the beginnings of a bond forming between three unlikely companions. It was in this moment, amidst fear and uncertainty, that he realized he wasn't entirely alone anymore. As night fell, they lit a small fire outside the barn. May helped the girl, whose name was Lily, settle into a blanket. Luke watched them, heart swelling and mind spinning. The warmth of the flames mirrored the warmth spreading inside him. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself a small, hopeful smile. Perhaps this twist of fate, this giant cowgirl and lost child, was exactly what his heart needed. Days passed, and Luke's routine began to shift. May stayed close, helping with chores, teaching him ways to see life beyond the grind of cattle and crops. Lily became a little shadow, laughter filling the spaces that had once been silent. The ranch, once a place of sorrow, now felt alive. Luke caught himself smiling more than he had in months, the weight on his chest lifting just enough to make room for something entirely new. One evening, May challenged him again, teasing, "Still haven't kissed me." Luke froze. She was standing barefoot by the river, her reflection shimmering in the water. His pulse quickened, and he felt the tension between them grow. This wasn't just a joke anymore, it was a test of courage, of vulnerability. And for Luke, taking risks had always been easier with animals than with people. May stepped closer, a playful glint in her eyes. "Come on, Luke, you can do it," she whispered. Luke's heart pounded. He felt fear, excitement, and something else he couldn't name. He realized that this moment, simple, absurd, terrifying, was also the chance to open a door he had locked long ago. He inched forward, the firelight flickering over their faces. Just as their lips were about to meet, a commotion erupted from the barn. A wild horse had broken loose, knocking over barrels and scattering feed. May laughed, breaking the tension, and Luke shook his head, half relieved, half frustrated. Fate, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Yet the electricity between them hadn't faded, it only deepened, promising more moments to come, moments where courage and heart could finally meet. By morning, Luke realized he couldn't ignore the pull he felt toward May. He found her sitting on the porch, sipping coffee, eyes closed as the first sunlight bathed her in gold. She looked serene, untouchable, yet somehow entirely present. Luke's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to confess the whirlwind of emotions, but words felt inadequate. He simply sat beside her, letting the silence speak, letting connection blossom in shared quiet. May turned to him with a teasing smile, nudging his shoulder. "You've got a lot to learn, Luke. About kissing, and life." Luke laughed, the sound foreign but liberating. They were no longer just two lonely souls thrown together, they were something more, fragile but real. And in the distance, Lily's laughter echoed across the fields, a reminder that life, messy and unpredictable, could also be beautiful. As part one closed, Luke stood at the edge of the barn roof, looking out at the plains. He knew challenges awaited, wild animals, harsh weather, and the uncertainty of trust, but for the first time in months, he didn't feel small or powerless. With May at his side and Lily's laughter behind him, he felt capable of facing whatever twists fate would throw next. The heart, he realized, was ready to heal, and maybe even to love. Morning light spilled across the ranch, turning dew into diamonds. Luke was already up, tending to the horses, but his mind lingered on May. She had stayed up late, talking quietly with Lily about small, fantastical stories, laughter spilling into the barn. Luke smiled, realizing how much life had changed in just a few days. May's presence was magnetic, yet calming, and her giant, confident figure seemed to fill the emptiness he had carried for months. Suddenly, a distant rumble interrupted the peace. Luke squinted toward the hills, smoke and dust rose from the neighboring valley. A herd of runaway cattle, spooked and wild, was charging straight toward the ranch. Panic surged through him. If they weren't stopped, fences would break, animals could die, and the fragile harmony of his life with May and Lily would shatter. May appeared at his side in an instant, boots pounding the ground. "We'll handle this," she said, her voice steady, commanding. Her eyes met his with unspoken understanding. They were partners now, in danger as well as in life. Together, they raced toward the fences, hearts pounding, adrenaline turning fear into precision. Luke felt alive in a way he hadn't in years, each movement guided by instinct and trust. As the first animals crashed into the fence, Luke panicked for a split second, then May acted. With astonishing strength, she held the fence steady, bracing against the weight of the stampeding cattle. Luke ran alongside, redirecting the frightened herd, calling out in a voice that had grown more confident, more certain. The chaos was terrifying, yet exhilarating. He realized he was capable of so much more than he had imagined. Hours later, the dust settled. The fence was damaged, but the cattle were safe. Luke's muscles ached, sweat dripped, and dirt covered every inch of him. But he was smiling, and May was laughing beside him, hair wild and eyes sparkling. Even Lily, perched atop a haystack, clapped and cheered. They had survived together, and in that survival, Luke saw the undeniable truth. Love, courage, and family weren't just for fairy tales. They could happen in real, messy, unpredictable life. That night, the three of them sat by the fire again. May pulled Luke close, her enormous frame somehow comforting rather than intimidating. "You never kissed me, but you faced chaos like a hero," she teased, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. Luke laughed nervously, heart racing. He realized that no amount of hesitation could stop what was meant to happen. It was time. He leaned in, hesitant, hands shaking slightly. May tilted her head, encouraging him with a warm smile. Their lips met, and the world seemed to pause. The crackle of the fire, the distant howl of coyotes, even Lily's soft breathing, all faded into nothing. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper, a mingling of relief, joy, and burgeoning love. Luke felt a warmth spread through him, one that made the ranch, the plains, and even his grief feel lighter, more alive. Pulling back slightly, Luke whispered, "I never thought I'd feel like this again." May chuckled, resting her forehead against his. "You've always been brave," she said. "You just needed someone to remind you it's okay to let your heart follow." For the first time in months, Luke felt completely understood, completely home. Lily, sensing the change, ran up and threw her arms around both of them. "You two are the best," she squealed. Luke lifted her into his arms, spinning her in circles, laughter echoing across the fields. May joined in, her booming laugh filling the night. For a moment, everything was perfect, chaotic but joyful, a family forged not by blood, but by trust, courage, and the magic of unexpected connections. Days turned into weeks. The ranch thrived in ways it hadn't before. Luke and May worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with each passing sunrise. They laughed, argued, celebrated small victories, and comforted one another through minor defeats. Lily became the glue, her laughter and curiosity filling every empty corner. Luke found himself smiling constantly, the sorrow of his past softened by the joy of the present. One afternoon, a letter arrived, dust-covered and crumpled. It was from a distant relative, offering support for the ranch. Luke opened it and realized that fortune wasn't just about money, it was about people who cared. May squeezed his hand, sensing the relief washing over him. Together, they made plans, not just for survival, but for growth, for a future that now seemed wide open, limitless, and full of possibility. That evening, under the vast expanse of stars, Luke and May sat on the porch swing, Lily curled up beside them. The gentle breeze whispered through the trees, carrying the scents of wildflowers and fresh hay. Luke realized he hadn't felt fear for a long time, only hope, love, and gratitude. May rested her head on his shoulder, her giant form fitting perfectly into the life he had once thought was too small for joy. "I never imagined life could feel like this," Luke admitted quietly. May smiled, brushing her fingers through his hair. "Sometimes, the most unexpected people bring the most extraordinary changes," she said. Luke nodded, knowing it was true. The girl who had haunted his loneliness and the woman who had challenged his fears had transformed his world in ways he never could have predicted. The next morning, Luke woke to the sound of laughter and the smell of fresh bread. May was already in the kitchen, Lily perched on a stool, helping her stir. Luke felt a swell of pride and happiness. His ranch was alive, his heart was full, and the future looked brighter than ever. He knew challenges would come, but now he had May, Lily, and a life worth protecting. As the sun rose over the plains, Luke finally let himself dream of love, laughter, and a family he had never thought he would have. May stepped beside him, brushing a hand across his shoulder. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked. Luke smiled, pulling her close. "Always," he said. Together, they watched the sunrise, hearts aligned, knowing that no matter what came next, they would face it together. And in that moment, with the ranch thriving, the laughter of a little girl, and the warmth of a giant cowgirl by his side, Luke finally understood. Life's greatest joys often come from the most unexpected places, and love, once found, can heal even the deepest scars.